Hello, everyone. This is Molly from the Casually Molly podcast, and I just wanted to introduce you to my friends at the Natty Cat. This one is for you cool cats and kittens who can't get enough of wordplay and fur babies. The Natty Cat's natural soy candles feature inventive scent combinations in glass jars with clever kitties on the labels. Hand-purred with locally sourced natural soy wax, the Natty Cat's candles wood wicks create a cozy fireside crackling sound, perfect for curling up on the couch. Remember, for all of your candle and scented oil needs, please visit our friends at the Natty Cat either on Facebook or Instagram.
Have you ever wanted to get your shit together? Scrap it, look through the lens and capture it. But first world problems are getting you down. Disabled, salty, needing a laugh to fix that frown. Well, you can do all those things and so much more. Just grab a seat in the chair or the floor. Sit back, relax, recline. Well, she drops another casual line. You're tuned into Casually Molly with Molly and Bergie.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Casually Molly podcast. I am your host, Molly Ambergy. Remember that you can always casually subscribe, whether on audio, video, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Just give me some validation. We'll be set. Enough about that for right now. I am sitting with one of my good friends, Reshaunda Thornton. What kind of title would you call yourself, Reshaunda?
Such a great question.
Yeah.
Depends on who's asking, but I always just start off letting people know what I do for a living, and then just let them know what I do with that. Because so if I just consider what's my professional title, I am a dietitian, registered dietitian. But what I do with the profession is a whole nother ball game. So that can be writing, that can be media, that can be speaking, that can be doing a podcast. It's so many different realms in which I've taken nutrition as a dietitian. So at the end of the day, it's about really helping people to connect to nutrition and healthy living in their life to where it's kind of a harmonious way of living versus this living of fear or living of anxiety going back and forth. So, yeah.
Yeah. See, that's why I made her tell you guys, because I was like,
Great call.
Yes. Well, I was like, because I always am like, oh, my friend Reshaunda. And I'm like, wait a minute before I even say anything. So, but you have such a way with connecting with people. And I say that because how I met you was we met through our mutual friend, Chris Denman. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe you had come to a comedy show one night, one of the many that we do, whether it's in Sophie's or in a barbecue joint or in a venue. And Chris was like, this is Reshaunda. She's going to be recording in Midcoast too. She's a dietitian. She's all these things. And I got talking with you, and you have, like many people we have on here, you have quite a resume. And I say that as a very complimentary way because you've done TedX, Gateway Arch. You've written books. You have a podcast. You're on events. I mean, do you ever stop? What's going on?
That's what it looks like on the outside. It looks like it's so many different things that are juggling. But I try to tell people this seems like I'm doing a lot. But prior to me in this position where all you're seeing is the back end of it, I'm really coasting. I'm really taking it easy because it did so much work in the behind the scenes.
Yes.
To where what now you do now is just really the easy part.
Oh, that's good to know.
And so when you hear like the book and the TED Talk and like the Fox 2 News and the podcast, you think I'm doing this simultaneously when it's actually like those are stair steps that I've done throughout a timeline where none of them really happen simultaneously. But when you look at the resume, you just see them lined up, So it's one kind of begets the other. And that's to me is the beauty of like taking what I do as a dietitian to another level.
Yes. Well, I also loved on your website how you talked about your I'm not like your standard dietitian with like a coat or like a lab coat or something like that. And I was like, that is so funny. But I feel like, especially in your field where for somebody like me, I remember telling you once, I was like, now, I mean, I'm going to be 30 and I went through I always had really great metabolism, and now I've started to obviously catch up, or that's not always the same case anymore. And I remember I was saying oh, Reshaunda, I got to cut this out. I got to do this. And rather than you telling me to basically starve myself, you were no, you don't have to do that. What are you talking about?
Yes.
And just your motivation of being you just have to create a certain healthy lifestyle for yourself. And forgive me if I'm using the wrong terms, but I just remember thinking about that. And that's exactly why I wanted to have you on, because your words helped me kind of curate that for me. I'm starting to be active in the morning. I do yoga, even if it's just 10 minutes, it just fits into my day. And it just starts. I mean, and I know a lot of people are oh, well, yoga isn't for me. And that's fine. You can jog, whatever.
Gotta figure out what works for you.
Just that. Exactly. And I figured out what works for me. And I swear, I feel so much healthier now. And I was oh, I have to thank Reshaunda for that.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
Yes. So that's how you help me work behind the scenes, so that way I can come out here and chat with people.
Yeah.
But that's what I wanted to ask you. Let's talk about how we got to here.
Well, one thing when you see the website and you said the first thing I say is I'm not the typical dietitian, is because when someone wants to eat healthy, there's so many preset ways they've thought, or they feel it's going to be something that's unattainable, or they have to get themselves equipped to eat a healthy diet.
Exactly.
It's just a lot. And so what I'm trying to do is break down those barriers and saying, I'm not going to come at you with my chart and me tallying your calories or giving you a list of your diet plan so you can follow. I'm not here to give you a rule book, you know? So for me to show you that I'm just like you, I like to find balance. I like to have fun. I laugh. I wear workout clothes. I can wear a t-shirt. I'm on here with a t-shirt and a jacket.
There you go.
I using that as a way to connect with people, because that's who we all are. So how can I connect with you and show you through my life and through my expression of happiness for me? How can you find it for yourself when it comes to your nutrition? So when it comes to your nutrition, it's about helping people. It's kind of like meeting them where they're at and helping them to find what works for them.
Yes.
And that's key, because just like you said, you're fine that you enjoy the yoga, you enjoy doing some of the different activities, but what you find out is you feel better.
Yes.
And so you didn't do that because Reshaunda said you got to do 30 minutes of yoga on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays.
Right.
You're doing it because you find you like yoga. You kind of like yoga.
Yes.
And you got to really figure out what works for you, because that's what's going to give you the happiness. It's going to allow you to keep doing it. And I mean, that's where I feel when I'm working with people or talking to people, I have to help them to see that you are a part of this puzzle piece.
Yeah. So
you are a part of what happens to your nutrition, what happens to your exercise, not you just fitting in some preset idea of what you're supposed to do.
That's it. You exactly. And that's why I love you. You just it completely worded exactly all of my feelings. And it's great to see the weight loss, of course, but it's just amazing how much better I feel as a person. And I know, and I know it sounds crazy, but you just said the same thing I just said. Yeah. But it's just, you feel so much better about yourself without having to stress out about it, which I think is a fantastic approach. Just because I feel at least for people who, are like me, it gets a little scary sometimes, because you're just oh my gosh, you're trying to count numbers and I do that already in my day job and everyday life and running, my small business here on this podcast and stuff. So I'm oh my gosh, and now I have to worry about my health. Why can't this just be easy? And you just make it you're it's fine. Just go with the flow. Like you said, you're coasting. So it works out.
and I like that you said it, because it's about, it's about recognizing when you start making changes. Just think about first, not about, oh, did the scale go down 10 pounds, or, oh, did I get back into that size 8 or 6 or whatever number I kept created in my head that's I feel I'm going to be happy in. Those are surface tangible feelings of happiness, but they're not real feelings of happiness, because it's the idea that if I'm 10 pounds lighter, it's the idea if I'm 3 sizes down, I'm happy.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But guess what? That's not enough. Because guess what? So many people will be in that position. So just changing your eating habits just to lose that weight or to change your size of clothes, that's not enough to get people to where they're learning how to live a healthy life.
Yes.
So now, like you said, it's about recognizing how I feel. How does it make me feel as a person? How does it make me feel waking up in the morning? Do you feel good about just taking on the day? Do you feel good at your body? You have gotten a full amount of sleep. Do you feel good that you're breathing and you're taking in the moment when you're doing yoga? Do you feel good when you're actually scrambling those eggs and you got some fruit on the side and you just feel nice and fluffy inside? Like those are the components that you want to recognize as to how and why you're changing, not because you're just trying to lose weight.
Exactly.
And when you do that, it's actually the opposite, because you're kind of imploding in a positive way of like that self-care versus a lot of times when people go on diets or eat healthy, they're depriving their body, they're miserable, they're not happy, they're waiting till they're done. Like you're doing the opposite of your health because you're not really feeding your body happiness or healthy food. You're only trying to deprive your body or tell yourself mentally which you can't have, and which puts you in a negative mindset. So it's the opposite. So we do the opposite when we try to jump on diets. We do the opposite of self-care and self-love. So my whole biggest picture is how can we promote self-care and self-love through our nutrition choices? Because when we choose foods that we feel good about, we physically feel good about them, we emotionally feel good about them, that's us taking care of ourselves. That's us loving ourselves.
Exactly. Well, see, and I'm Italian, so like being able to cook something like great and fun, like that's why I was like, oh my gosh, like that's exactly what I want to apply in my lifestyle, like and be still healthy, but still like also like love myself and take care of myself. So trust me, I am right there with you. Speaking of loving yourself, what is we were talking about cooking. Is there a special meal that like you just love making for yourself that just makes you feel good?
Sure will tell you. My favorite, and I think I have it, and this is where it's like it gets real. Like people are thinking, oh, she must eat salads every day, all day, or I love salads, but my favorite meal is actually nachos.
Really?
Well, let me give you my.
I don't blame you.
Like I love the crunch, I love the salty, but like this is my nachos. So like I'll have like a split bed of like spinach and tortilla chips. So it's kind of like I got a salad, but then I'll put my lean ground turkey or chicken on there, season it up with taco seasoning. But then I'll put like fresh avocados, fresh tomatoes, squeeze some lime on it, and I'll sprinkle shredded cheese on it. And that combination, like that's my idea of nachos, right? So there's many varieties of nachos, but I look forward to that combination. But I know like everything I'm putting on my plate, nothing's processed. There's a combination of crunchy, salty, there's flavor. I got all the nutrients sitting on that one plate. So I feel good about eating it, and I feel good once I've eaten it. So that's a big difference. So then I can say, I love nachos. It's not, no food should be labeled bad or even good. Because that's when we start putting these limitations, and then we call it bad and we decide to eat it because we can help ourselves, and we feel bad. I mean, it's this whole like cycle of just this negative, negative conversations, and just it creates negative energy. So what I just done is I found a food that typically are people say, oh, you eat nachos, but I create it in a more fulfilling, healthy way to where I enjoy looking towards it. I don't feel bad about having it. So sometimes it's just about changing the dish a little bit to where you're not taking away stuff, you're actually adding stuff. You're adding nutrient, adding fresh food, adding fresh ingredients. So sometimes we think, oh, I got to take. No, how about we're just adding something different?
Yes. I like it. Just changing it up. So that's the story of my life. I just got to change it up all the time. So might as well put that in my diet. I can't wait. But like I said, I just love the positive outlook that you have for it, which have you always just been a positive person? Like, was this just, like, did you just wake up when you were younger every day and be like, I just want to be a dietitian and make people feel good about themselves?
I actually asked myself that question, like, why am I like so like passionate about? Like it lights my fire every day. I'm talking to a person. It lights my fire every day. I'm talking to groups of people. I'm creating stuff, and I asked myself, what is it like? Why are you so just fired up with this? Like, did you grow up happy? I mean, I can't say I grew up uberly happy, but I didn't grow up unhappy.
Right.
Just being a dietitian was not something that wasn't my first career path. I'm actually switched careers and became a dietitian about 12 years ago. So prior to that, I got my first degree in biology, and I worked in the laboratory. I worked in genetics, science. I was wearing the lab
I was going to say, you were in the lab coat.
I really was. But I found that it's like one of those moments where you just have this moment where you're working, and then you just pause. You think, do I see myself doing this for the rest of my life? And I found that I didn't. So I started seeking another profession. And keep the story short, I found a profession of dietetics, and then I recognized the array of different areas in which a dietitian can work in. Because most dietitians you hear about, they're in the hospital.
Yeah.
Or they're in food service, which are great fields. It's needed fields. But I decided as a dietitian, I want to be like in preventive health. I want to be in front of people. I don't want to talk to a person once they're in the hospital. I want to give them the tools and give them ways to live a healthy, long life so they don't have to be in the hospital. And so that's really how I decided to create my own private practice. And that's how the development of my nutrition company called Better Vessel came about. And then that's how it happened. Then as a dietitian, I realized, you're taught in the profession, as far as dietitians, like understanding nutrients, understanding, what are good calories, how to bring in the right calories that your body needs. Like we know all those numbers. So we know the numbers.
Yes.
But I know just me giving you numbers is not going to help you change.
Sure.
I got to give you something more applicable. Like how can you apply these acts to your life and take away the fact you got to count a number. And so like that's how I found myself as a dietitian, like finding a new way to approach nutrition in a way to help people to really like embed it into their life where they don't have to live by a number system.
Oh, I love that. I love that you also just started your own. You were just like, you know what? I'm going to pave, like, especially when you transfer fields, like sometimes you're like, oh, well, for some people, they're like, should I just go, like you said, to like a hospital here, which is, again, great needed fields. But I love the idea that you made it your own and you curated your own kind of leadership for it, which I wanted to ask, like, how did you come up with the name of it, too?
Better Vessel?
Yeah.
Well, so I'm a woman of God. And so in the Bible, there's a verse in the Bible that says, our body is our vessel. How can we better honor God by bettering our vessel? And so I just attached vessel. And I just attach better vessel, just flow well. But it's the whole premise of your better vessel is like you want to make a better vessel, a better your body, your health, your body physically, your vessel. And how I can use a way of making a better vessel is making sure I'm bringing in the healthy food. That's my way. There's other ways to make a better vessel, right?
Yes.
Spiritual, emotional, all this stuff like that. But I use nutrition as my vehicle to help people to better themselves. Because if I can help better your life by bettering your nutrition, which connects to your emotional mindset, connects to your body's ability just to heal and repair and build. If I can help you better yourself in that realm, everything that we've learned, because I work a lot with mindset and perspective change, you can apply that. You become more confident because you feel better. You're a better vessel, but then you apply that to being a better mom, a better sister, a better caregiver. You become a full, better vessel. So nutrition is my little crack that I found that I can help people to find these other components of how they can better their life and better their health. So that's where Better Vessel comes from.
I was just always curious because I like the idea of it. I was like, there's some cohesive meaning to it. And I just have to ask her one day. So I just had to pull you on my podcast and put a mic up on you. I couldn't just ask you regularly, but I love it. No, I think that's great because you are somebody where I know you love, reaching out to people and helping people, which I think is great that you have Better Vessel because that way you're able to do that. And, you have all these different mediums that you do that with. You have a book, you do TV appearances, you have a podcast. Is there maybe a preferred medium? Do you just kind of like, where do we go from here?
I find that I like being multidimensional.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about influence. So I can use different platforms to create influence. It's what's going to create the change.
Yes.
But also having different platforms gives your ability to expand in multiple levels simultaneously. So if someone is a podcast listener or they're Instagram scroller or if they're a Facebook person or if they like to watch the news on TV, or they like to read books, guess what? I'm in every single portion of it. So I can affect change in these multiple ways. And so I really think because of that, I like being able to work in all realms of it. Yes. And at the end of the day, it's all about just trying to find a way to create. I'm only one person. I'm only going to do so much. But if I can create these other ways to let things duplicate on its own, then I'm doing exactly what I want to do.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying, like, especially with the technology that we have offered today. In the pandemic right now, it's kind of hard to do maybe one-on-one consultations in person. Now we're finally even just sitting here in the,
Finally, yeah.
Yeah, getting into the studio. So what I just kind of wanted to ask you is during the pandemic, because I was recording stuff with people, obviously virtually, still am. And then obviously we're here locally in St. Louis, but I loved the platform you were using when you were using your podcast, and you had not a platform, but just kind of like a discussion group.
Panel, yeah.
Yeah, a panel. Thank you.
Yep.
This is why I need Reshaunda. I need a thesaurus. But a panel of people. And, you know, you covered so many topics too outside even of being a dietitian. And I believe that one of them was, oh gosh, it was like, maybe it was self-care, but you had a great panel of people. How has it been working with people just virtually and connecting with them?
Yeah, so as an entrepreneur, you gotta find ways to stay in front.
Yeah.
Especially when you're getting blindsided. And we really got blindsided. And so obviously I do one-on-one individual nutrition consultations in person. And obviously that changed, but it opened up another pathway to where I'm virtually working with people. So I built even another part of my practice is the virtual service that I provide. And I provide the same type of connection with people across the state now.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. So with the panel part, that's the thing. Like once you build a platform, like it's not always like I use nutrition as my gateway for a larger change. So if I create a platform where I have other experts in specialties talking about a particular topic that I may not be familiar with, I'm bringing my audience into the conversation, and I'm learning at the same time that they're learning. So I'm giving them something, you know, outside of just nutrition, but a part of your health is mental health. It's emotional health.
That's mental health. Yep.
It's dealing with your children, how they're affected by COVID. It's like, especially now, I mean, it's so many different things that are affected. We don't recognize it, that the dynamic of it, because we just see our struggle. We don't know that the food system is getting broken down all the way from the farmers to the distribution centers to the restaurants, because there's so many gaps. Like we don't recognize all the different pieces that are falling apart. But the goal is for some of those conversations that to create awareness and to help us to kind of see outside of our own issues and see the different things that's happening around us. But at the same time, we're learning and we're able to grow. And so that was the purpose. It was called the Weekly Wellness Coalition Panel.
Yes.
And each week I had a panel of guests, and I got guests from Canada, from New Jersey. I mean, they weren't even in St. Louis, really.
Yeah.
And that was the beauty of it with, again, the podcast and technology.
Yes.
I was able to expand those conversations to people across parts of the country.
Yes.
And not relegate to just St. Louis. You know, so I just think it's, again, once you find, like, if I want people to be happy, my expertise in nutrition, if I bring other people on with me and they have other expertise to help people to be happy, I want them to be a part of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Well, I just like the fact that all those, because I was like, I swear I watched because I just couldn't remember the name, but I felt like every panel you had worked hand in hand with what you did, because at the end of the day, it's just like what we talked about earlier, is that you are trying to create like a healthy lifestyle, especially during the pandemic. I'm sure that was like kind of a hard transition for people. Even just like at a smaller scale, I felt like it was a harder transition for me. And it's a weird thing to think about, all the steps that go into food processing and making things, and then also the wellness with like your mental health and how things have been working. But how have, I was about to say, you did that as well, but have you done, I know you have why don't you actually tell us before we get into my next question about the book that you have?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because I will tell you, there actually got a new project that's coming about. So just to give some people premise. Yeah. So if you were able to, if anyone who's out there watching, I did a TED Talk last year in May called Winning the Food Fight. So take a moment, 17 minutes, go on YouTube, look it up.
Good.
It's
I've
worth
watched
listening to. And so that actually gives you a premise of why I'm called a dietitian against diets, because it comes from the TED Talk. But the point of what I'm trying to say is that I have a book that's very similar called Play to Win the Food Fight. So think about just the idea of play to win. Anytime you're in a marriage, you're in a sport, you're parenting, you're at a job, you're in it to win. So when it comes to play to win the food fight, my book is built off tools on how to apply our actions to certain scenarios that we face when it comes to healthy eating. So we're playing to win now, not just going back and forth in this yo-yo. And so the food fight, play to win the food fight, is food fight's a play off the word food fight, but we actually feel like we're fighting. We have an adversarial relationship with food all the time. We feel anxiety, we feel victimized, we feel less powerful when it comes to food. So we literally fight food. So in the book, and what you find is that you're finding ways to overcome your struggles and your obstacles. You deal with emotion with food, but you find that it's really not a fight against food. It's a fight against yourself. Food is what we fight with. but it's underlying the reason as to why we do the same thing over and over again. That's not really about the food. So you realize through the book is how to fight against your own personal struggles that you have put food in as a placeholder. Yeah. So that's what the book is about. Now, because I know that when people read it, it's not a novel. It's not like chapter 1 leads to chapter 2.
Oh.
It's actually each chapter has its own independent way of addressing things, which makes it great because people can look back and forth as if like their self-help book. That's what I call it. Yeah. So I know it could be complicated when you first read it because you're like, doesn't, you'll figure it out. But if you go into it, it's going to be like a chapter that begets another chapter. It's going to make you feel like there's a lot of missing pieces. There's no connection. Sure. So that's why I actually have right now, a virtual called the Playbook, a virtual playbook, which is the workshop that I'm doing based off the book Play to Win Your Food Fight. Oh, and so I've partnered with a company here in St. Louis, and we're building a 4-part series that we only have 10 people that are able to sign up for the first one. And it's going to be on purpose because I want to create a small community of people. And each week we go through, they each get a book and they all get their own swag along with some coupons and things from the other company. Ooh. But each week we dig into each part of the book. And so we build, it's a workshop. So we work through it and we learn how to apply it to our own lives. And the goal is for them we become more successful in their fight to win the food fight. But having it only 10 people keeps it intimate. Keep these conversations to ourselves, build that small community within. It really is for people that really want to start making change and stop the yo-yo effect. Yes. So that's my workshop that I have coming out. Actually, it'll be out. Well, I'm not sure when the podcast will be out, but the deadline to apply for it will be the beginning of November 2nd. So you'll see the marketing for it or whatnot, but it's an opportunity for people to come together and learn how to use the book.
Yes, that's what. Well, it comes out next week, so don't worry.
Great.
We'll make sure that we got some people sign up.
Yep.
Anybody that's watching or listening, Reshaunda's great. I vouched for her, obviously, casually vouching for Reshaunda, so it's all good.
I appreciate it.
Oh, but no, like I said, I just think you were just such a smart person, and that's what I just love about you, which I'm sure you're a mom, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. You're yes, I am. And you have how old is your son now?
Oh boy, he just last week was his birthday.
Oh,
happy
birthday.
Yes. Would you believe it? He turned 18. I have a senior in high school.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. He turned 18 last week.
Oh my, how do you feel?
It's actually I'm very proud of him. And I feel like this is the last year of this is gonna be the last time in June that we do this, last time in July. You start facing your last towards the end of your child's senior year. Mm-hmm. But with the given pandemic, we were kind of stuck together.
Yeah,
March. So we actually had a lot of time to spend with each other. I use that as my silver lining in this pandemic because I was able to spend more one-on-one time with him because I know this time next year he's going to be doing his own thing.
Yeah.
Which I'm it's a part of life.
Of course, yeah.
I'm going to cry. But I'm also going to be happy and proud of him because I know he is in a position to be quite successful.
Yeah.
He's a successful young man, so.
No, good for him. Well, shout out to him. What's his name?
John Edwards.
John Edwards, happy birthday. Get it. This is going to be great. Well,
Enjoy your 18 years.
Seriously, if I think not that I'm old, but I'm going to be 30, right, in November. It's not that, and everybody's it's fine. It's, nothing changes. But I just think about being 18 and I was thinking about all the worries I had and all this stuff. And I'm ew, why did I ever feel that way? And I'm sure that keeps you keep reflecting like that as you get older. But enough about me and my self-reflection. Just had my moment here. But why I wanted to bring that up is, how do you guys kind of curate that lifestyle together while you're...
Yeah, I mean, and this is why I tell parents, and that's why I'm all about balance. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I have an event coming out next month as well called Cooking and Cocktails.
Ooh.
It'll be here at the studio actually with teaming up with Dearburst and Barkeep. And so we're making a nice healthy meal and having a cocktail on the side. What? And that's the whole point of living is finding that balance. So when it comes to me as a dietitian, I bring in that balance because it's not always black and white. You got to find you want to enjoy food and not feel like something is good or something is bad, right? So we bring these things together to where if you have a nice, clean, healthy, yummy meal and have a nice drink on the side, we can do that, right?
Yes.
So when it comes to balance in the household, my son, he grew up eating clean, healthy food. So he eats pretty clean. Now, he's a teenager, so hey, you want to get your Emo's pizza on a Friday night? Go get your Emo's pizza.
Yes.
But during the week, we're eating salads. We're eating fruits and vegetables. We're eating lean meats, that's his norm. But as a child, I say, hey, go grab a pizza or go get some chicken from Chick-fil-A or something like that. So he knows how to live both lives. And I think it's important as children because you don't want kids to have a negative relationship with food. You want to help them they're going to automatically like this stuff because they're just bombarded with it just as marketing and things like that.
Sure.
But you also want them to understand the value of finding that balance and making sure that salads are important, fruits are important because they're going to become adults like we are.
Yes.
And so like he actually, I don't know, you got to ask him how he really feels about it, but I feel like I give him pretty good balance and he doesn't really struggle.
John, you can just leave all your thoughts in the comments. It's okay.
Know who's cooking, know who's paying for your food. Just remember that. No, but it's great. He does have a good foundation and
good.
I have confidence that he'll at least retain half of it when he goes to college, and he'll come back full circle once he gets a little bit older.
Oh, absolutely. He has to come back for those nachos. So,
I know, right? He loves those nachos too. So
exactly. I was about to say, you probably, that's what I'm saying, having you as a mom, he's probably learned all these cool meals and stuff.
And he likes to make meals sometimes.
Yeah, I was about to say, does he have a favorite?
Well, I'll say,
or is it all of it?
I know, but he's not really picky, but I'll say, hey, go to Pinterest, find a recipe. I just let him go on Pinterest. He finds a recipe, and whatever is on that recipe, I like to empower him. So we'll go get the ingredients together, and he'll cook the meal. And he's so proud of it. And
good for him.
And it's like, as a parent, you want to teach kids to let them make choice and let them make decisions and give them that freedom. And then you probably find that they're pretty good about it because you think about the generation now, even though we're the generation where we've been kind of bombarded with fast food restaurants, and unfortunately, research has shown the health impact when we eat those foods. So this younger generation, they are more open-minded to, having a more plant-based diet or, reading food labels or, having a healthier lifestyle. So they're actually a little bit more open to it, So I feel like, considering that and his age and him being around me, I just do my best to just let him make his choice because I want him to make his own choices, and hopefully, if I educate him enough, influence him enough, like I do everyone else,
yes,
he'll find out what works for him.
Oh, I love that. And I love he's just got a front row seat to the Better Vessel. This is great.
Hope he can say the same.
I'm sure he's probably going to laugh if he listens to this, so it's okay. But, it's interesting you brought up the fast food industry, too, because it is so easy. And, I'm guilty of it, too. It is easy just to, drive through a Jack in the Box and get, some tacos. They're only $1 a piece. And I watched something on Netflix, and oh my gosh, I forget. See, I'm really not doing well with my names and series today. But it was something like 100, not 100 questions, but it was some kind of trivia series. And one of them was on fast food. It's super interesting. I'll message you when I get home and I'll tell you what it is.
Okay.
But I thought of you because they talked about fast food and its popularity and just how it grew from McDonald's and KFC and Burger King. And there's some islands and stuff that just won't allow it. They're nope, you can't come into our industry. But then I think it was NASA that paid for Pizza Hut to have
come fly and go in space or something.
Yeah.
I can remember that. Yeah.
Yes, it was the craziest thing. And then there was a KFC in Japan, and the lines and stuff are so long to it. So there is such a fascination to it as well. I mean, and it does taste good. I'm not gonna pretend that's not a thing. But what I wanted to kind of ask you is, what are your thoughts on that? Is there a balance with that, I guess, or I don't know.
Well, I think when it comes to the American reasons of doing it, it's because they find that they can manipulate the society's tongue by giving them foods that are higher in sodium, higher in fats, higher in sugar, and it makes it more desirable, and people come back for more. So if for Western civilization, it makes it more of a money thing.
Yeah.
For other countries, they're just influenced by the American idea.
Yeah.
And so if you're in Japan and you're eating a chicken or whatever, they don't eat fried. They don't eat that type of food. So they're really doing it because that's the American dream or the American way. Mm-hmm. And so unfortunately, they're adapting to those types of foods. It's causing those same health conditions, So I feel depends on, obviously it's an influence from Americans, but when it comes to America, to me, it's more for monetary reasons.
Sure.
So when it comes to now, I really feel I really would give heads up to a lot of companies because we as people are kind of forcing the industry to change a little bit. Mm-hmm. So you have there's like almost every fast food restaurant they have out there, they have something that's legitimately pretty healthy. The only problem is that you have that choice, but then you're surrounded by these other choices. So it comes to that person deciding, am I going to get the salad and the apple slices, or I'm going to go ahead and get that quarter-pounder burger with the fries?
Yeah.
Right? And so it's still, the temptation is still there. But they are trying to find ways to kind of give people more options and educate them, too, because they're having to where they have to list. It's kind of a mandate to where they have to list calories and things like that. So it makes people at least think about their choices to where they're just not blindly just going in. So I feel like it's some of the responsibilities, well, a lot of responsibilities on them because they are the ones that have influenced us as consumers. But now we have so much information where we can Google something and figure it out. We don't have to wait until a newspaper, wait until it's in an encyclopedia. We can figure it out real time. So another part of it is us taking the time to educate ourselves so we can make informed decisions and not just fall into what's convenient, what's cheap, what's sweet, what's salty. Like those reasons is what's guiding us to unhealthy lifestyle. So we have the ability to think about those choices now and decide, sometimes to me, eating healthy is not untasty. It's not like I don't miss out on a fast food burger by me choosing to make a homemade wrap. I promise I don't miss out. But people don't think that way. They think that they are missing out. They don't get that burger. They don't get the chicken basket. You know what I mean? Because they're caught on the taste of it, the short term benefits of it just tasting good, versus what's more valuable is this good for my body? How I'm going to feel after I eat it? Am I going to feel sluggish and heavy, or am I going to feel light and feel like I can move the rest of the day? Or how I'm going to feel about myself once I've eaten all that food. Like, we have to start thinking about those things in lieu of our choices versus just going for it because it smells good.
Right. Yes. Oh, 100%. Because there's always like people, especially too, will bring up this was a long time ago when this guy came out with that documentary with Super Size Me. And I had like mixed feelings about it because I was like, well, would anybody like eat a bunch of that like every day for that? Like, I was like, is this like a real experiment? And I wasn't saying that because I don't think it's impossible for that to happen, but I was just like,
kind of extreme.
That's what I mean. Like, cause like, and I hate to be like, but you're like a dietitian and like, you know what you're talking about. But like, I was just like, is this, I don't know, but who knows? Maybe he had some experience, as I saw it when I was much younger. So I don't really remember it as much. But
I think it just shows, I mean, for those who haven't seen it, it's basically about this guy went on this whole like year of eating just nothing. Every day he ate a McDonald's for breakfast, lunch,
and it was all like supersized.
Yeah. And so the idea was just like to show just the impact of constantly having fast food and how it affects your weight, how it affects your health, just his energy, like everything's just started to decline. He did do it to the extreme, but it just gives perspective on understanding like when we let ourselves depend on those types of foods for our fueling, it may not be that immediate change, but it's spread out over 7 or 8 years, it's still going to create the same end result. But also it's influenced the next generation. So if we're the parents driving through picking up some nuggets and french fries, guess what? We're getting our kids that because it's a Happy Meal.
Yeah.
All about the marketing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to be happy to eat this meal. Happy Meal, right? And so there you go. You got a little toy in there. And, so like that's their way of getting in there to where now they got another generation there to influence at a young age. So these kids can grow up wanting nothing but McDonald's fries.
Sure.
They're going to want nothing but those because their tongue is already adapted to that flavor from day one. So now parents are struggling between eating vegetables or eating fries, and they're going to always lose because they grew up with the fries. So I look at it deeper than just that immediate project or research project, but it just showed you the implications of how the consistency of eating these foods is just not good for your health.
Sure, yeah.
But again, I think it also indirectly affects the next generation because if you eat that way, you're going to feed your kids that way.
Yes. Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
No, see, and you just have such a lovely, I know I've been saying this like 5 times on the podcast, but you just have such a nice way of phrasing things. I'm like, oh, it's like you phrase things exactly how I want in my brain, but I can never like put it on paper or say it.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing I want to say
Yeah.
real
No,
quick.
please do.
So like just think of the facade of fast food. Okay. So if you go down any major road, you got at least 7 or 8 fast food restaurants on each side. Right. So guess what? It's creating the idea that your life is so busy, you don't have any time. We're here to solve that problem. So instead of you going to cook a meal, just give $5 in 5 minutes. You have a meal because you're so busy. And so it creates this idea that if you're surrounded by these restaurants that satisfies the need of having something short and quick, you're going to think that your life, you don't have time in life.
Yes.
And so guess what you do? If you get off work late, 30 minutes late, you're tired, you don't have time to eat, drive through, right? Or you laying and watching a TV show, you don't really feel like getting up, I'm going to order it, it's to me. So like, it's the idea that you don't have time when you really, the reality is that it doesn't take that a long amount of time to cook a healthy meal. You know, like it'll be, okay, give an example. There's McDonald's that used to be by my house. Every morning I would see 15 cars wrapped around so they can get a coffee and an egg McMuffin or whatever. They wait 10 minutes to get this coffee egg McMuffin. Do you know I can create that same egg toast with, you know, let's say a healthier meat and some, you know, real food
Yes.
in like 7 minutes? So it's just the idea that we don't have time when you actually do have time. And so that's why I'm not a big fan of like the whole fast food restaurant, because if it makes it so easy for you, it enables you to make a choice that's healthy for you, or get you in the mindset that where you feeling, this is the answer because I don't have time. When honestly, you do. You just have to make time. But if it's worth your health, it's worth the long run of you wanting to live a healthy, happy life, you're going to make that time. You know? So that's my whole theory on fast food restaurants.
No, I'm always curious talking to like an actual dietitian about it, just because it is something that is talked a lot, especially in the American culture. And like it's amazing that you talked about like making time for it, because you know me, I'm a pretty busy person. I got my day job, I do comedy, I'm writing plays, I do this podcast.
Go girl.
Yeah, like just trying to keep up with Reshaunda,
Okay.
just bettering my vessel, okay?
Love it.
Don't worry about it. But like, as you're like, here's the thing though, like it is hard to curate yourself, and like, I feel like sometimes this pressure to like be somebody, and like not that I'm a no, but you know what I mean? Like I'm just trying to like better myself. And sometimes when you're trying to better yourself so much, you get caught up in like all these different things that you're really not making the time to better yourself as a human. And that was like one of the things that I would always say to myself. I was like, oh, I don't have time. I just got to go through a drive-through. But then you're like stuck in the drive-through for the longest time. So I'm like, well, this is dumb. I'm not saving any time because I'm sitting here when I could be sitting at home. But then what's great is that like even now, like I'll be able to go home because I prepped everything. Like Tupperware is key, man. Like I just make everything and put everything in the oven super quick. And it's not difficult. You just put on the fish to 375 degrees and then
Sprinkle
you take
a little
it
salt
out.
and pepper on there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I put a little chili powder on it to like spice up my life a little bit. And then, but it's like now it's going to be there when I get home. And you just forget like, oh, I am... Like sometimes you feel like you're not capable of it, but you really are. You are capable of making that time. And that when I get home, it's going to fit into my lifestyle. I'm going to feel good when I eat it.
Exactly.
I'll probably do some yoga,
There you go.
like do some promo for our episode. But you know what? You're in such a good headspace that and it's the craziest thing that like, just even a simple piece of fish just puts me in a good headspace. And it's just nuts.
It's your body's nutrients.
Yeah.
But you know what? The thing is that people say, oh, that just sounds great. But I don't know how to fit it in my life, where they feel like they have to check every box to feel that they've done something good. When it's really more so about just simplify. This thing called healthy eating is so simple, and we have to figure out how can we make it simple in our lives. So let's say you do like a fast food restaurant. You make that.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of going 3 times a week to make it where it's your first go-to, just go once a week. So we do have that off day where you're not cooking or whatever.
Exactly.
But then you may have one of those Wednesday nights where your favorite show is on. You just got an extra 45 minutes. Use that time to make a meal that can actually last a couple of days. Use that time to cut up those vegetables or to bring a salad together. Like it's about finding those or making those pockets, but also finding like a balance. So where someone may not want to eat something healthy by its the quotations every single night.
Yes.
So guess what? On the weekends, have a couple of meals where you eat out.
Yeah.
But then on Sunday, prepare for that week, know? And then like, okay, there's a Wednesday in there somewhere. Oh, it's a little bit slow. Okay, make you a fun meal with Pinterest. You got time.
Yes.
But the thing is that you're preparing, you find a way to kind of work it within your life to where it's not one extreme to the other.
Right.
And that's what it's all. It's back to the balance piece.
Yeah, that's why that is exactly, because I felt like, and I think the reason why I wanted to like take everything you said and put it actually into action was because there was like, I was either on one extreme where it was just too much and I was getting like too thin, or the other like thing was, you know, it was just too much going through the drive-through, and I was like, how can I just like make this fun for Molly? Like what, like how do I do this? And it's just, you know, it's hard too, because again, like when you have responsibilities and stuff, and I'm not ignoring that either. Like I'm also, you know, a single female, you know, I'm not married, I don't have kids. Like I'm in a position to be able to kind of like do all this stuff a little bit differently, you know? And I'm not saying that you can't when you have all of those things, but I get it. And I'm sure there's people that are listening like, oh yeah, well, Molly, like you've got the time to like self-reflect and do all these things, which I guess
Yoga,
is
what?
like yoga in the morning. Like I have a kid to feed. Like I get it. So that's what I kind of wanted to ask you too. Like for people who do, like for people who are on the go, what's the best advice that you can give to them that have responsibilities and work, especially during the pandemic? Like we're all trying to figure out where we're at. What would you tell them? How do we better our vessel?
Yeah, and you know what? This is a new like territory, you know. And I actually I do a lot of virtual talks now.
Yeah.
To employees that work for larger companies, but they're hiring me to come in and talk to these employees that are all remote.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're learning how to. I call it your new, like this is your new work at home. Like how are you going to be able to juggle having kids that are in school? You have to find a way how they can get their Zoom calls and they're learning. Oh, but now you have to work and put in 8 hours. Oh, but now you have to be a parent and cook food. Like, okay, something has to give.
Yes.
And the first thing that gives is the food, because we're going to call something in. We're going to pull something out of the freezer and put it in the microwave. Like that's the first thing that falls apart. And so like my way of helping people to try to kind of at least create a new norm within their new situation is really, first of all, help them to realize that right now, you know, you're trying to put the pieces together. So give yourself a little bit of grace and just allow yourself to kind of get through this to where you're not letting yourself get overwhelmed by trying to do everything the same exact way you did before the pandemic.
Right.
You know, if your kid's late for their Zoom call, okay, they're gonna be late for their Zoom call. You know, or if you're, you know, create opportunities to where use time to cook as a family time, to where you're collaborating things with your family along with for your health for yourself, instead of trying to just do it all separated. Find time to overlap them, because your time is kind of limited right now. But you also want to think about what are you set an example for your kids by being erratic in your choices because you're trying to figure too many different things out. They see all of that.
Yes.
You know, so all kids see is that they have more time with mom and dad. Sometimes they may feel too much time, but they don't see the moving pieces that we see as adults. All you know is mom is all of a sudden she doesn't really want to talk. She's a little bit, has more, you know, antsy, or she's a little short-tempered. They see that part. So when it comes to a parent trying to work and have kids, raise kids, I tell them this. At nighttime, when you decide to cook dinner, same thing, double up your dinner. Already put in a compartmental container, put in a refrigerator for lunch for yourself and lunch for your kids. So when it's lunchtime at work, at home, it's lunchtime at school, at home, you pull it out, warm it up, and you have your meal.
Yeah.
And even with the snacks, just start buying fruits and cutting them up. Put them in a big bowl in the refrigerator. So when your kids are hungry, you want their snacks, you want them to keep having healthy meals. Just have it where it's already chopped up, already created. It's so much easier for them to go in there and grab a handful, and you too as a parent, because that'll be your snack instead of, I'm going to get these chips or I'm going to get this wrapper with this candy in it because I just need something quick. You have to recreate your space. So being proactive with your meals, doubling up your meals so you have something the next day, but also bringing in those snacks and those fruits that you know that your family can graze on, so you are healthy snacking during the day. And to me, you would think that's not hard, and it takes away that level of pressure, because now you have to deal with, you know, making sure your kids eat. Okay, now I'm gaining weight. Okay, now I'm frustrated. I can't think clear. You know, all these things can be eliminated if we just get a little bit more strategic in nutrition in this new space. And those are just the 2 quick, easy ways to kind of implement something for those parents that are trying to juggle it all.
See, and that's what I just wanted to make sure that I added because, like I said, it'll be, even just for like my basic problems, like at least I can just kind of like figure things out. But I can only, like, not that it's a bad thing necessarily, but my heart does go out to people like parents right now, especially during this pandemic, who are trying to balance everything, love themselves, show that love to their kids. I'm sure it's crazy right now with the Zoom virtual world. Like I have one of my friends is a mom and she was cracking me up because she has a son who's 6 and she's like, oh my God, I haven't had any time to myself because of he keeps getting logged off of Zoom just because like, I know this has nothing to do with being a dietitian, but I just wanted to share. Don't worry, people understand. It's a real thing that's happening right now. So that's why I was like, Reshaunda, you're a parent. You've raised a son. Why don't you explain what needs to be done right now? So, but it's just, and if anybody's listening or watching, like we're all trying to navigate, during this time too. And that's why I just think it's so enlightening to talk to somebody like you because you're clearly intelligent. You're a good person. You love what you do. And like the fact that you're passing that on to other people and people love, like me, especially who like love that response. Like I'm just so happy to like be a part of your life. And I'm just so happy that you're doing things like this is great. But speaking of being part of my life, you've been, a lot of people who listen to this usually are like either comedians or the entertainment industry. Okay. And you've been dragged to a lot of comedy shows.
I have. Seen a handful.
Seen a handful. I was about to say, what do you think of the St. Louis comedy circuit here?
I mean, honestly, so this just give you transparency. I've never really just been to comedy shows like that, but it really has opened up my eyes to like being able to appreciate different types of humor because humor to me is reality because they're telling stories. Yes. And the story that you can only laugh at, but there's so much truth to it. So it's a combination of being truthful and telling stories. There's art because all about your the way you're delivering it. And I mean, even in the professional realm of it, all we see as the audience is that people just kind of laughing at jokes, but you as the comedians are having the time, what you say, recognize when to bring in a joke, when to pull it back, and seeing when the crowd is not really respond. Like, it's so many different things happening that we don't see. Yes. And so me, being more closely to the comedy world, it just kind of helps me see that professionalism, that art in it. It helps me to appreciate it. So when I watch improv or watch, something on television or watch a movie, like I kind of, not saying I get it because I really don't get it yet, but I can appreciate it a little bit more and I can appreciate different forms of humor because of that.
Yes. Well, that's what I was about to say because that's how we met. And I was like, I wonder what Reshaunda thinks now that she's seeing everything happen behind the scenes. Like there's like sometimes where we would be at a bar and Reshaunda comes in and I'm like, oh, hey, I'm just looking at my notes, just trying to like get all this down. And I was like, I bet you now she watches a comedy special and she's like, oh my God, there's so much that goes into this.
And it's a grind.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%.
It is a grind. Yes. I'm like, you have to, it's just kind of like, it's not easy being a dietitian because no one's running up to you saying, hey, help me eat healthy, help me to lose weight, right? It's not easy being a comedian because you have to take everything that comes with it, going different places, practicing on different people and trying jokes out. Like, it's a grind, And so to me, like, you really, really, really have to really have a passion for it. To just work at it, because it's something you want to do this for. Like you asked me, why do you want to do this? Like it's a reason why comedy has touched your heart in so many ways. That you got the guts to get up on that stage and try to make somebody laugh.
Exactly,
and that's pretty commendable.
Oh, there we go. Hey, any comedians who feel like they're struggling right now, we got the guts to go on stage. Reshaunda has given us the validation, but like we need more. So come to every show now. We've got the validation. This is great. I love it. But no, that's great that you see it that way for sure, because there is definitely a grind to it and a hustle to it, and it. There's I don't know if you've met Rafe Williams or you've seen him. You've seen him perform. Yes. He's got a great phrase where it's just like being a comedian. It's like one of the most fun jobs in the world, but one of the hardest as well. And you really have to put in your 10,000 hours to be a part of it.
This shows you the breadth of it. Like not a few hours, 10, it's hours. It's that grind part. It's a lot of work that's done underneath. When you see these comedians that are like more the celebrity popular ones. Sure. If you knew their story, like wow, like you wouldn't want to wish that story on anyone else. But that's how deep they are into it, how much they want it, that they went through all of that to create whatever end product that came from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, it's 10,000 hours. That's probably an understatement.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's true. But that's like bringing it back to you is that I feel like that's kind of what you're doing with all of your endeavors. Like you're putting your own 10,000 hours into reaching out to people, writing books, doing podcasting. Like I feel like it, like, you know, you look at Reshaunda's website and like, sure, she's done like Fox 2, TedX, all these things, but it's just like what you talked about. Like there was so much like getting your degrees, like learning, transition, like moving different cities, like that made you to where you are today. And I'm sure it wasn't an easy road, but at the same time, like look how much you've gained and how much you've earned from your hard work. So I was about to say, I'm sure you just like really appreciate now, like you were saying earlier, that you can just kind of coast and be like, worked my ass off and now here I am.
So I get it. You know, I that's why I can appreciate, you know, any profession where you have to figure it out on your own and you got to make a lot of mistakes and you got to put yourself out there and you got to repeat, reload, go back, repeat, reload, go back. Like you got to keep like flushing it out until you get it right. But it's a reason why you're doing that. And it's not because of the money. Because you're not getting money at the beginning part of it, so it can't be because you're going to rich. No, you have, it's something that's driving you. But what it does, Molly, I really feel like comedians, what I do for a living, like it just represents who you are.
Yes.
Because you cannot disconnect to who you are. So you can't help but be in it. And that's why you're excited every time you go on stage. You get antsy when you get ready. Or what makes your heart sing is when you have that laugh that you saw the lady, she wasn't even laughing the whole time. Then she cracked a smile. Right? So it's like, that's what makes your heart sing. Like, that's why you're in it. You know? So I get like the work behind it. And it's important. And whatever you do in life, you know, I say this all the time. It's two most important things that happens in your life. Two most important things. The moment you were born and the moment you knew what you were born to do.
Oh.
Because when you know what you're born to do, I get all emotional with this.
Oh my God. I'm a little emotional.
When you know exactly what you're supposed to do on this earth, nothing can stop you. Nothing can slow you down and tell you that you can't do it because you're in your stuff. And when you're in your stuff, you just blossom because it's what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. It's amazing when you're like doing what you're supposed to do. And it's just, like I said, like that hard work goes into it. But then all of a sudden, like suddenly things come easy and you're like, oh,
it flows.
I just had to do all this stuff. And it's like, you know, there's certain days where you're just like shaking your head. And I'm sure you're like, you probably question,
what am I doing?
What am I doing? Oh my God, I say that all the time now, especially like, this will just make you laugh for a second. So at my day job today, I was confirming I sell apartments for a living, and I was laughing because I was trying to confirm an appointment for this girl, and I sent her the wrong date the first time. And then I took just a number off and sent it again and realized that October 3rd was last week. So then I was like, hello, Ashley, one more time. Like, and I was just like, what am I doing with my life? Like, why? And I turned to my boss. I was like, I am just a hot mess. And he was so cool about it. He's like, it's fine. You know, if she comes, that's great. I was like, well, if she didn't come, I wouldn't blame her. You know, I get it. But, you know, you just kind of have to, why I bring something so silly like that up is you do have to laugh at those moments because, like, there's many times where I'm like, oh, like, I'm doing my day job so I can do what I want, all these things. But then, like, you know, then you're sitting here with somebody like Reshaunda Thornton and you're like, okay, this is why I'm doing it. So I sent like 3 emails to do this correctly. But at the end of the day, it all comes together eventually. And I feel like that's probably how it came. And you just eventually better your vessel. This is a great name for a company. I'm so excited about this now.
I'm glad you know what it means and why it makes sense.
Yes.
You know, that just gives you kind of like the premise of what I do and why I do what I do.
Yes, exactly. And now I feel like I'm gonna, like how you were already giving me advice about curating, like, you know, my lifestyle to me. I feel like that's gonna go into my practice now. Like, and when I wake up in the morning, and that's another thing too. You were saying, like, I get a little emotional about this. Like, sometimes we take some things for granted where just even like waking up in the morning, you're like, I woke up. Like, some people didn't, you know, and that's what's so great. And I think that's what I'm going to do is, like, I'm going to wake up and I'm sure I'm going to have days where I'm going to be like, I didn't better anything. Like, but I think that's something I'm going to incorporate into my practice for sure. Yeah. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Figure out what works for you.
Figure out what works for you. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, the last question I'll ask you before we end this out is, you know, you've been consulting people for a while. Like I said, you've got quite a resume. Is there something memorable in your career that just like, really touched you? Like, did you have a certain talk that you gave, or did you bond with a certain colleague? Was there just a certain story that meant a lot to you during your career?
I'll give you this kind of it's one that was recent, which is huge because let's say this particular client, So this particular client came to me about 3 years ago, severely overweight and was desperate, had diagnosed with cancer, had diabetes. He came to me, 100 pounds overweight, and came to me because he was fearful of his life. Fast forward 3 years later, that just shows you how long it takes to change sometimes. This person has been diligent about rearranging and learning how to eat that's best for his health, combating the cancer, down where his diabetes are like completely controlled, working out. And he'll send me just a text just saying, how good he's feeling. And what he's done now is take what I've taught him on to another level to where he's researching about health. He's taking control of his health. So what I'm saying is that it shows me that, the work you do with a person, you help set that foundation, you allow them to blossom from that. And that's what makes me smile, that knows I'm doing the right thing. But he also, I kind of lost train of thought there, but this is it was like the most important part. So I lost it, but
that's all right.
But he, it'll come back.
This is Casually Molly for a reason. We have to casually talk things out, and then eventually we get to our point.
What was it? Okay, so the weight he has continuously lost the weight, and he found his own path. But what he's done is over time is what I've seen him just manifest into the person that he wants to be. Here he came back. So when I first told you that he came to me desperate, scared, out of fear for his life, to where he couldn't sleep at night. He's so scared about his cancer, and we changed all that. So his choices of eating healthy is not out of fear anymore. It's not out of fear. He makes healthy choices now out of love, love for himself. Yes. So my point is saying a lot of times we want to, we want to scramble and eat healthy because we're scared of our health. We're scared that it's going to take us down another path. So we making choices out of fear. Mm-hmm. Nutrition, health is about making choices out of love for yourself. And when you make choice out of love, you take the time to chop up those vegetables. You take the time to go broil that fish versus getting some fried fish. You take the time to make sure that you're taking in the moment of eating healthy food because you're making choices out of love.
Exactly.
And that's the biggest difference between a diet and nutrition. And that was reflected in my client.
I love that. What a great story to end out on. Like, I feel like that's what I'm going to do now when I go and cut up some vegetables. I'm going to be like, I am doing this out of love. I'm going to love these peppers and I'm going to love this broccoli. But and then eventually I think if I talk myself into it, I will. But
just
no.
Make a choice out of love, not out of fear of weight gain.
Exactly.
So just make out of love, and that shifts your way and your reason why you're making healthy choices.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That was awesome.
I'm glad we talked it out so I can get that out.
Oh, no, trust me.
It's there. It's just giving time to come back.
Well, because especially sometimes when something really means a lot to you, it's hard to always put it in words because you're like, I feel it. It's there. I know what I want. And you're like, doesn't everybody else, I'm sure everybody else in the room feels this way. And I say everybody else, just the two other people that are in here that have to help us run the
We don't have audience, guys. No
There's the audience, but anybody else that was listening to or watching, we've all been there. It's just like what we talked about comedy. Sometimes people are just when people come to comedians, they're like, tell us your favorite joke or something that you like to tell people, and you're like, you know nothing. This is just it's a hard thing to express because you have to be in the moment, just like how you were in this story. So,
yeah.
But speaking of sharing things, why don't you tell us a little bit? For anybody that listened to this episode, they're like, cool, love Reshaunda, want to be bettering my vessel here. Mm-hmm. How can we do that? Where can we look and find you?
It all depends on where you're at and what you want.
Yes.
So if you just want to have some feel-good nuggets of just learning how to think differently, just real small inserts, you go to Instagram at the Dietitian Against Diets, and you'll see my small little sayings and topics that will give you just some mindset things to think about. If you want to dig a little bit deeper, definitely go to my website. And so what I do for a living, I speak, I work with groups, I work with people individually one-on-one. So go to www.reshaundathornton.com. That's RESHAUND as in dog, ATHORNTON.com. I have a couple events coming up. I have a cooking and cocktails event that'll be happening on the 21st of October. You'll see on Facebook Live. And I also have my virtual Play to Win workshop that you can sign up for. You go to Facebook at Reshaunda, a Better Vessel. You'll find kind of the updates. So just follow me. Go to my website, learn about some different things I'm doing. And also, if you want to sign up for newsletters, you can sign up through my website as well. And that way you also get information, just kind of keep you abreast of what's happening.
Nice. All right. So everybody do all of those things. So no, I mean, I already checked off one. I follow you on Instagram and I looked at your website. So it's all good.
Yep.
For those of you who are a fan of the podcast, you already are subscribing and I appreciate that. And I know there's been so much good support from the podcast. So thank you to everybody. For those of you who are a little bit newer to it, just please casually subscribe, whether on audio, video, Facebook, you name it. Make it happen. Leave us a review if you want. Just let us know what episodes you liked and maybe we'll just keep scheduling cool people back. So, well, Reshaunda, what we ask is at the end of each episode, what are you going to casually do now with the rest of your night?
Well, I'll let you have a wild guess. It has something to do with chopping, cooking, and eating.
All right. Same, actually.
Yep.
So this is going to be great. Well, we're going to casually go do that, but everybody have a great rest of your night and stay safe.
Bye, guys.
Bye.